So, after you have finished knitting the heel flap, you can start with the foot. That's actually quite simple. It means we knit the first and the fourth needle of our sock normally, that is, always in knit stitches, just like we did with the heel. And we will knit the second and third needle in our waffle pattern. A little tip, if someone has slightly wider feet, I would recommend adding stitches at the foot here, because the weapon pattern naturally pulls the sock a bit tighter, but it is still very, very elastic. I'll quickly show you how to increase stitches. Otherwise, the foot is really simple because it always knits round after round. In size, it is approximately 37 up to a length of 30 centimeters measured from here. As I said, you always start with knit stitches, and picking up stitches is really easy. You have this thread between the stitches here. Now go in from the bottom to the top, take it crosswise, and come in from the back here. I always dive in from the front, but you can also just be a bit fussy at the beginning, like a right-leaning stitch that is sticking out here. That's why I always go in from the front, once behind the needle, grab the thread and pull it through. Now you've picked up a trick. I would say, yes maybe, if the feet are a bit wider, to cast on about 2 stitches on the first needle and 2 stitches on the fourth needle, so that you have a total of 4 more stitches and perhaps always 1 stitch per round. They are also quite inconspicuous, so you can't really tell that something was recorded there. Well, have fun knitting! And we will see each other again at the top. Good. When you have finished knitting your foot, it is a size 37, now approximately 13 cm long from the heel, which is appropriate from our color change. We are now changing the color and knitting 5 rounds with the yellow yarn. We will knit these 5 rounds for all sizes. A small tip, if you knit them larger or smaller, these 30 cm in size 37 are now approximately the beginning of the small teeth. We simply change our thread again. There are enough symphonen left, and as mentioned, start by knitting 5 rounds with only knit stitches. Once you have done that, I will show you how the tip works. So, in the 6th round, we knit 2 stitches together on each needle. We knit all the stitches on the first needle to the right, except for the last 2 stitches. We'll knit those together on the left. I'll show you in a moment. So, now you're at the last 2 stitches. That means you actually knit them both together like a purl stitch. And basically, thread the yarn through the needle, pierce through both stitches like this, pull the yarn, and now you've made 1 stitch out of 2 stitches. On the second needle, we knit the first 2 stitches together, bring the yarn to the front of the needle, insert it through both stitches, pull the yarn, and turn 2 stitches into 1. We will knit the remaining stitches again in the right stitch. And the same goes for the third and fourth needles. That means on the third needle, which is always the odd needle, we knit the last 2 together on the first and third needle. And with the straight needles, that is, with the second and fourth needles, the first 2. That we basically always knit together upwards here and have a nice edge. Now, as mentioned, the third needle odd needle, so knit the last 2 stitches together with the yarn in front of the needle. And done. Last needle, now we will knit the first 2 together. And the remaining stitches knit. In the next round, which is our 7th round, we will knit all the stitches as they appear. That means we don't knit stitches together. We now take turns knitting a round of stitches together, meaning the 1st and 3rd needle, the last 2 stitches, then the 2nd and 4th, and then the first 2 stitches, knitting them together. Knit the next round as it appears, without any decreases. We will repeat this alternately until we have only 6 stitches left on the needle in each size. That, we knit the stitches together every round. Like the principle here, so odd stitches. The last ones, even stitches. The first 2 stitches together. You do for so long until you only have 3 stitches left on each needle. Once again, knit in alternating rounds, 1 round with decreases and 1 round without, until there are only 6 stitches left on the needle, regardless of the size of your sock. After that, you knit the stitches together every round until only 3 stitches are left on the needle, and then we will meet again to bind off. See you then. So, your work schedules now look something like this. We are now cutting the thread and securing our stitches. As I said, we still have 3 stitches on the needle everywhere. Here with a relatively dull knitting needle. And now we always insert the first needle from the bottom to the top into the stitch. And then take the stitch off the needle. Once more, we go into the stitch below, push through upwards and take the stitch off the needle. Here, be a little careful so that it doesn't twist you around. Otherwise, it's really quite simple, and then your sock is already finished. The other sock will of course be knitted in the same way. And then you really have a cool pattern, which I also call Gryffindor style. In terms of colors, it fits quite well. Careful not to drop any stitches. That's actually the only thing I would call dangerous, that at the last stitch some loops might drop. But otherwise, as I said, it's really quite simple. So the last stitch, then we poke at the top. We still have this little hole here, so we'll poke it with the needle and turn the whole thing around. That's not the case. So, take the needle with you. So the sock is turned inside out. Now we tighten this a bit here so that we don't have a gap in the front, and now we just need to sew it up. That means we pierce it, go through about 6 to 8 times, and then you can cut the thread and you're done.